Ever hear that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? It gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
But today, we're diving into a time when the Galactic Conquered learned that sometimes the best weapon is the one you left back in the workshop, gathering dust.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
We're looking at the war, the conquer, all those advanced civilizations up against the Varek's dominion. Now, the Conquered had it all. Energy weapons, the shields, drones, you name it, top-of-the-line tech.
It's cutting edge. At least that's what everyone thought.
Exactly. But the Vareks, they brought something else to the party, something that could unleash an EMP, basically fry every circuit board for light years.
Imagine a galactic blackout.
But instead of just your lights, it's every piece of tech you've got, just gone.
Poof! Right in the middle of a space battle. Not a good day to be conquered.
Okay.
And that's where it gets really interesting. The Vareks, with that EMP tech of theirs, they basically showed everyone just how badly the Conquered had messed up their strategy.
Technological arrogance.
Big time. See, they got so used to their fancy energy weapons, they forgot all about the simpler stuff.
Things that go boom.
The old-fashioned way. Because everyone else in the galaxy had moved on, right? That's what made the Conquered such an easy target. No one saw it coming.
Traded in their cannons for laser beams.
And paid the price. This wasn't just a tactical defeat. We're talking entire conquered fleets, wiped out, starships, packed with those high-tech weapons, totally helpless. Systems fried before they could even raise a shield.
Just sitting ducks.
Sitting ducks is right.
Ugh.
The Vareks just swept in, picked them off one by one. A complete massacre.
Brutal. It really makes you think. Even in space, sometimes the simplest solutions, they hit the hardest.
Absolutely.
So how did the Conquered dig themselves out of that mess? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Stick with us as we unpack the battle that changed everything, the rise of, well, a particular human hero, and the enduring power of a well-placed, you guessed it, bullet. So the Conquered's really up against it now. They put all their eggs in the energy weapon basket.
And the Vareks just swiped the basket right out from under them.
Exactly. So picture it, frantic strategizing, war rooms in chaos.
Can you imagine what that must have been like?
And that's when this human general, Alicia Briggs, steps up. And she's got a plan.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It's so audacious, so unbelievably simple.
Let's hear it.
She wants to use ballistic weapons.
You're kidding. Like actual projectiles. Talk about going retro.
Right. But that's what's so brilliant about it. Everyone, even those alien races centuries ahead of us, they all fell into the same trap.
Thinking high-tech automatically meant better.
Exactly. But General Briggs, she had human military history on her side, and she saw a way out.
The path less traveled, huh?
Pretty much. She basically says, remember those ballistic weapons we brought? The ones that fire, actual physical things?
I bet that got some looks in the room.
Turns out, she says, they don't much care about EMPs.
And she's not wrong. It's basic physics. Fry a circuit board, sure. Can't stop a hunk of metal moving at thousands of miles per hour, though.
Music to their ears, or maybe not. You've got these advanced aliens with their warp drives and whatnot, and here comes a human suggesting they go back to, what, muskets and cannons.
Had to have stung a little.
Yeah.
Pride's a funny thing.
The records actually show some of them laughing. Admiral Talon, the Zelkor, he quipped something like, "You still shoot metal at each other, how quaint."
Wow. Talk about eating your words later.
Oh, yeah. But to their credit, the Conquered was desperate. And desperate times, well, they needed a win, any win. So they gave General Briggs a shot, and to prove her theory, they picked the most unlikely proving ground you could imagine. Nova Krith.
Hold on, Nova Krith. That strategically vital planet.
The one and only. It was right on the verge of falling to the Vareks.
Now that's what I call a gamble. High stakes.
You said it. Nova Krith was the crucible. Not just a fight for one planet, but for their whole way of thinking about war. Vareks on one side, confident and technologically superior.
And on the other?
Humanity, bringing the fight to them with tanks, artillery, rifles.
Always.
Those who witnessed the first stages of the battle, they said it was almost surreal. Imagine those sleek Vareks warships.
The ones that just cut through everything.
Suddenly, they're facing a barrage of what must have seemed like ancient weapons, artillery shells tearing through their hulls, which were designed for energy blasts, not kinetic impacts.
Talk about a rude awakening. Their tech just wasn't built for that. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
And the tanks rolled in, immune to the EMPs, just blazing away with their cannons. It's like the Vareks' own tech turned against them.
Poetic, almost.
I was reading a transcript from a Vareks commander, Velak, on the ground. You can practically hear the panic in his voice. He's yelling, "What are these primitives doing? How are these metal slugs defeating us?"
Imagine that moment of realization. Your whole strategy, your entire understanding of warfare just crumbled.
And the best part, it wasn't just a victory. It was a complete and utter rout. The Variks were sent running with their tails between their legs.
The Battle of Nova Krith. More like the beatdown in Nova Krith. What a game changer. Everyone knew it.
Talk about a paradigm shift. This one battle changed everything. When we really think about it, Nova Krith, it wasn't just about, like, bullets and tanks.
No, not at all.
It was about challenging those assumptions we talked about, realizing that progress doesn't always mean tossing out the old ways.
It's so easy to look back and be like, well, duh, the Variks should have seen that coming. But they were blinded. Blinded by their own success. They just thought their tech made them untouchable.
And who could blame the rest of the Conquered for going along with it? It's that old saying, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Except in this case, it was very broken.
Totally. And it took the humans willing to dig out those old blueprints to actually fix it.
What's amazing is how quickly everyone changed their tune after Nova Krith. Shipyards that had only ever built energy weapons were suddenly churning out cannons.
No kidding.
Big time. There are even records of alien engineers, some who'd never even seen a firearm before, trying to wrap their heads around these human manuals.
Talk about a learning curve. Can you imagine being so used to advanced tech and then having to go back to, like, gunpowder and ballistics?
There's a funny story about a Rylan engineer. Apparently, he spent ages looking for the power source on a human rifle.
No way.
I swear to you. Finally, one of the human techs just points out it uses chemical propellant. Old-fashioned mechanic.
Oh, man, I bet that was a humbling moment.
You think. But it really shows how much things changed, practically overnight. And the Variks, they had their work cut out for them. Suddenly, they had to figure out how to fight an enemy that was playing by their old rules. Their entire fleet, their entire way of thinking, it was built to counter energy weapons.
And now the Conquered is like, surprise! Remember, lead!
Basically. It's like trying to fight a ghost. The Variks were throwing everything they had at the Conquered, but it just wasn't working anymore. Their old tactics were useless.
So what happened? Did the Variks adapt?
Not really. At least not in time. They were too slow to change, too stuck in their old ways.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Adaptability. It's not just some buzzword, whether you're on a galactic battlefield or just trying to navigate everyday life, being able to adapt, to realize when your old assumptions aren't working anymore, that's crucial.
It's like Admiral Talon said later, and this is the same guy who laughed at the idea of shooting metal, he said. The humans, they taught us a good lesson. Sometimes the simplest solutions, they're the best ones.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It reminds me of something someone much smarter than me once said. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change.
And on that note, as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves us with a question. What about us? What do we have? Some obsolete piece of tech, a forgotten skill that could be the key to the future? What have we dismissed that might, with a fresh perspective, become essential again? Something to think about.